Howdy. I'm CharLee Simons, your host here on Do Not Talk. Talk about two things you're never supposed to talk about: politics and religion. One decides what life is going to be like here on earth, the other one decides what it's going to be like when we leave it. Seriously. The silent majority has finally found its voice, at least some of us. We got to increase that, especially in California, where we have sat back for way too long and just let one party dominate and run roughshod over my entire once golden state. It's disastrous. And we're not going to get any changes until we start electing good people. Good people need to run for office. And then we have them running for office. Our own state party needs to get behind them instead of whoever's next in line or whoever has the most money. That's the kind of stuff that seems to determine who's going to be running for office if you're going to get the backing of the California State GOP, Republican Party. I am no longer interested in what rhinos think. Rhinos have destroyed my party in my own state. Then I meet people like Rudy Rosselli. I met him at a little campaign speech for Christine Bish is also running for office in California. And she invited Rudy to come speak with her. And I was like, man, we got to get these people in office. We got to get these people actually calling shots and running the show, or we're done. I don't want politicians running things anymore. I want good business people. I want smart people with money. I want people who can run the fifth or sixth largest, depending on who you talk to, economy in the world. The state of California doesn't need another politician running it. We need smart people. You know who I would like to see? Being a military guy like I am, somebody who's a leader in the military. And that guy, I believe, is Rudy Rosselli. Rudy Rosselli, running for Congress in Northern California. He's running in a very interesting and fully on the left kind of district. It's the San Francisco East Bay area. That's where he is going to battle. And we need to get behind him and people like him. Stop supporting the state party. Start supporting candidates that you believe in. I really think that is our future. Act locally, impact nationally. And he's running for a big, big office. But he's also run big units, which is what you call it in the military. Unlike a corporation where it has a department, you have a unit that he was a commanding officer, retired major in the U.S. Army, and a successful businessman. That's what I want. Kamala Harris is going to be running for governor of California. She was a dismal failure as the presidential candidate for the Democrat Party. Just dismal failure. What were they thinking? Whatever it was, I'm glad they thought that way. She was ridiculous. I'm $20 right now says she will be running for the governor of California because she wants to stay relevant and she loves that position of power. And she knows if she can't be president, she could be running the biggest state in the nation, population-wise, financially, size-wise. I mean, we're not as big as Texas, but you know what I'm saying. We're huge. She wants to be running that. Judge Joe Brown, remember him? He was on with Candace Owens just recently talking about Kamala Harris.
Is the first person, the only person in California's history to run with no Republican opponent for U.S. Senator.
Wow. I did not know that.
And then there's another suspect thing, One West Bank. George Soros was the major investor in One West Bank. Mnuchin, later the Obama administration, and for 1 year in the Trump administration before he got fired, he was CEO. This is when they were having that mortgage foreclosure fraud situation. I had 3 neighbors lost their properties behind this fraud. So just about every county in California returned indictments against Mnuchin and One West Bank. There were 5,200 plus counts of indictments returned. 5,200. Well, Soros and Mnuchin raised a lot of money for Kamala, quite a few $1 million for her to run for the office of Attorney General of the state of California. When she got elected, she used her authority to consolidate all of these indictment counts and dismiss them. 3 weeks later, George Soros sells One West Bank for $3.42 billion. And then they raised a lot of money to get her elected as U.S. Senator without Republican opposition. Now, can you imagine California with no Republican candidate running against the Democratic Party candidate?
Incredible.
See, that's how she gets in. And at that point, she was Indian.
Oh, yeah. She was sworn in as Indian.
Yeah. So she wasn't talking about being black.
That happens a lot. Republicans don't even run for office in the state of California anymore. How? Why? There's this thing called jungle primary, and it's been disastrous for the Republican Party, where whoever are the two main vote getters in the primary election will go on to the big election, and it can be two Democrats. It's awful. And people like Rudy Rosselli, U.S. Army Major retired, front and center here on Do Not Talk. Hello, buddy boy.
Hey, how you doing? It's good to be back. Haven't seen
I'm
you in a
glad
while.
it has been a while. So, how does that happen? Offices, huge offices, congressional, Senate, so on, going basically unopposed. The Democrats taking it to the big November elections without anybody stepping up for the Republican Party in any kind of successful way. How does that happen, Rudy?
Well, the bottom line up front is that we're in a voting depression here in California. So many people feel that their votes don't count. And because they feel that their votes don't count, they don't feel that why run? Why even make an attempt at making a change? Why should I try to represent something that I know that I'm not going to win? And that's the way they feel when they have every opportunity to win. We've lost many races at the local level: city council, county supervisor, school board, water board. Did you know that the water board is an elected position to be on the water board? And you don't see these positions because people run unopposed. And when you run unopposed, that means that your name doesn't even show up on the ballot. People don't even know that the position was open to be ran against. So there are a lot of positions that even in city council that, for example, the city of Antioch, one of the cities in my district, the entire city council could have been turned over with 15 votes. And that's not just for one person. That's for multiple people. Like if they had 3 extra votes on one seat, 2 extra votes on another seat, 3 extra votes on a different seat, they could have flipped the entire city council. But because of 15 votes, they couldn't flip the city council. And regardless whether they were all Democrat or Republican, the point being is that it was only 15 votes that made a difference. In Vacaville, we've lost seats have been lost for just 50 votes. So if 50 people had just come out, they could have flipped a seat. But people are in a voting depression here in California, and they feel like their votes don't count when they actually do. Every single one of those votes will count. Uh, People feel that there are a lot of shenanigans going on, and they talk about these types of things. But if you don't get out and vote, if we don't make it too big to rig, then we're not going to win these races. And it's possible to win these races. We in this last election, we flipped 10 counties here in the state of California. 10 counties went from blue to red in the state of California the last election. So does your vote count? Yes, it does. Should you vote down ballot? Yes, you should. Don't just vote at the top of the ticket. You need to work your way all the way down, uh, and make sure that you know what you're voting for. And people can do that. I mean, just this morning, I was at a church, and we were talking to the church about starting a biblical citizenship class, because not only are you a citizen here in the United States, but when we move on, we're going to be citizens up in heaven. And what kind of citizen are you going to be? Are you going to be a citizen that went out there and made a difference and educated yourself and voted, or not? And it doesn't take that much. You just have to pay attention more than anything else about those things that you're passionate about. And by paying attention to those things, then you're going to start getting involved with city councils, county supervisors, and it just get involved with one thing. It doesn't have to be everything. It could be education. So that means that you're going to show up at the school board when they're talking about how much are they going to spend on books in the library? How much are they going to spend? And then you can have influence on what type of books they're going to be purchasing at the library. If you don't know what books they're buying or what your tax dollars are going for, then what are why are you paying taxes? Because people are going to buy whatever they believe that our children should be reading. And should those books be of a certain type? Should they be age restricted? You know, we don't have to burn books, but maybe we should restrict certain books from being seen in the library.
Buy as many as you want. Go stock your entire house full of some kind of child porn, which is what a lot of these books are in school libraries now. It's just horrible, horrible what's happening. We're not saying you can't own them. Go ahead and buy them if you're that sick, twisted, and stupid. But I don't want it in public education. I don't want it in school libraries. Period. Like you said, there's got to be age restrictions, for heaven's sake.
Mhm.
We don't need to be talking to sex so openly with graphic images
Right.
in school libraries. This is crazy what's happening in this state. And I never thought I'd hear people actually arguing in favor of that now. And that's what we've been getting because they're so arrogant. And they
Mhm.
just are going, they've got their agenda going, don't they? And
Yeah.
that is
Yeah.
to bring down this once great state. If you can destroy the state of California, you can destroy the rest of the nation. And next thing you know, ladies and gentlemen, here comes the New World Order.
Right.
We're the only
Right.
ones standing
Exactly.
against that. But California has always been strong financially and size wise, and we're on the brink of financial collapse right now. We definitely have had a moral collapse. And
Mhm.
why do people keep voting for the same kind of people who are allowing this stuff to go, not only allowing it, but encouraging it to go on by taking parents out of the picture and who's even going to be able to raise the children? Why do they keep voting for those who keep restricting them and tearing them down so much? Why?
Well, because again, people feel like their votes don't count. But if you take a look at this last election, I mean, a lot of those people have been restricted now to the coast. I mean, we're talking about south of the San Gabriels, and not even all the counties under the San Gabriels. We're just talking like Los Angeles, Ventura County, and then you're talking about San Mateo County, San Francisco County, and then Sacramento County. That's it. That's all of it. But unfortunately, that makes up a bulk majority of the population
Where the
in the state of
population is, yeah.
California. You know,
Uh,
but
as a congressman, U.S. congressman, in what's your district again?
it's District 8. So District 8 covers everything from Fairfield down to Richmond, specifically downtown Martinez, Pittsburgh, Antioch, and Benicia. So it's a pretty decent sized area. I mean, every congressional district is apportioned to approximately 750,000 people in population. And then once they have that, in my district, there's approximately 490,000 registered voters. But the interesting part about it is only 270,000 people voted in the last primary or last presidential election. Only 270 out of 490. What does that tell you? That there's
And this
two.
coming November, first Tuesday of November, election day, the big election is of 2026. Just
Mhm.
wow, a year and a half away, maybe.
Yeah.
We're going to be doing it again, but that's not a presidential election. And Republicans don't show up for anything but seemingly. We don't show up for primaries. We don't show up for midterms. We don't even have a say in who goes on to the big election, and that's why it's so dangerous with this jungle primary. What can you tell people about that?
Well, you know what? You can actually thank the Republicans for that
Yeah, I know.
because, yeah, the
Arnold
Republicans
Schwarzenegger.
exactly. They were the ones that came up with the whole idea of this jungle primary to make it more even for people to be able to run. But bottom line up front is this is that number one, check your voter registration. Go to your local elections office and check your signature. Believe it or not, they've got 5 different signatures or 4 different signatures, depending on the county, of what your signature looks like. And I went and checked mine, and one of them wasn't even my signature. And how it got on there was like, So I told them that, hey, that's not my signature right there. So you might as well get rid of that one, and make sure that you're registered for the right party. Because if you updated your driver's license within the last 4 years, uh, and you check that box to be a motor voter, they could have changed your party, and you don't even know that.
And they
So,
have been. That's
yeah,
been going on.
yep. So
And they
make
always
sure.
changed Republicans to Democrats. Never seems to be the other way around.
Hmm.
Yet they're like, oops, I don't know how that happened. It's
Yeah,
funny
yeah,
how it's always so one sided like that, but yet you don't know how it happens.
exactly. So the key is have have faith in your state, have faith in your fellow man, and know what you want to vote for and know whom you are voting for. uh, it's not too difficult. You can look up a lot of these people on their websites because they all have websites and they talk about the things, but you have to pay attention to those key things that are important to you. Do they believe in accountability of government? Do they believe in the sanctity of life? Or do they believe that the choice should be yours? Uh, when they say those type of things, well, you should have a choice in what happens with your body. Uh, and what are those choices that you have? I mean, should should you be required to have a vaccination of some sort that you don't trust? Is that the way you want it to be? Do you want the government to mandate what you should be putting into your body? Or, do you believe in the sanctity of life, that all life is precious? I know who your candidates are when it comes to voting and how you're going to vote. And also, get out there and vote and bring not just yourself, but bring a friend, bring 10 friends, make sure everybody in your house votes. If you want to see a change, get behind a candidate. You can visit me at rudy4foruscongress.com. That's Rudy FORUScongress.com. And, buy me a cup of coffee. Buy me a cup of coffee once a month. Doing things like that. If you were to buy a cup of coffee for each of your candidates, it goes a long way to
Yeah.
helping them, raise the funds, because it's not cheap to be a grassroots candidate. We don't have big super PACs behind us. We don't have, we rely on the local voters. We rely on small dollar donations for people to get out there and
Yep.
donate to us.
Because on the left, you have people who aren't even in your district giving huge amounts of money to your candidate just because they don't want to see you get in that spot. So people
Exactly.
from all, not just California, outside of the district, but even out of the state, are
Hmm.
sending money to these Democrat candidates directly to the candidates.
Hmm.
And it's all to keep people like Rudy from ever getting that office, because they know, for the most part, we suck at showing up for midterm elections and primaries. We do. We fully do. And we have to stop that immediately. Next week, I have constitutional attorney Chris Ann Hall on the show. And I learned from her that in the state of California, she's not even from here, but she knows so much about our own constitution that we don't. She said that about a third of the state of California claim to be Christian, but only about 40% of them are even registered to vote. What?
Exactly.
And at midterm and primary elections, it's in the teens. And it's
Hmm.
never been easier in the state of California. You fill it out and you mail it in. I hope you don't. I hope you at least take it down in person. Don't mail it. But because it might not make it ever to the post office if you have an American flag flying in front of your house.
Hmm.
And I have friends who
But
work for the U.S. Postal Service who have told me that happens. Your
yeah, well,
ballot suddenly gets lost.
one of the big things that a lot of the political groups, especially the Republicans have been doing this last election is curing votes. So what does it mean to cure a vote? Well, sometimes when they get ready to open up the envelope that your ballot is in, they'll find an anomaly of some sort. And as they open it up, if they can't determine who you're voting for or that your signature is valid, they put it into a pile. And then what we do is we get a list of those people whose ballot was not counted. And then we go around to each person individually and say, did you realize that your ballot wasn't counted? So there is an advantage to the mail-in system. I'm not going to say that it's the best way. I prefer that people would show up and vote.
I know.
But
Me
being
too.
able to cure those votes to make sure that everybody's vote counts is a very important thing.
And you don't have to take it the day of the election either, because here in California, we're open like at least a week before the actual election day. So you can take it down in person and turn it
Yes,
in and make
yes.
sure it gets counted.
Well, yeah.
This is
But if
vitally
there's a
important.
problem with it, they still set it aside. If you didn't sign it properly, it still gets set aside, and that way we can cure those ballots. Um, but hopefully, and if any one thing, I hope they pass. I mean, in Wisconsin, they passed the requirement for voter ID, before you can get that ballot. So if they ever push here in the state of California for real IDs for everybody, then we can have maybe better elections. But bottom line up
When
front
you
is,
say real ID, you're not talking about the DMV real ID. You're talking about just actually showing a government license to be able to,
no, I'm talking about the government real ID,
oh, got it.
that you show the real ID in order to get a ballot, because the real ID proves your citizenship. So by having the real ID and you show that real ID, then you'll know that
Or a
person,
passport. Passport will
or
do.
passport. Yeah, you could show a passport. That'll work too, to prove your citizenship. But that's the key. And uh, voting is so important. But I mean, if we don't do those types of things, again, if we don't get out there and vote on these types of measures, these types of propositions, then how secure are our elections going to be? And the way you can tell whether you got a real ID or not, I don't know if you can see that, but do you see that little star there,
Yeah.
the golden bear? That identifies it as a real ID. If you have a minor the guy that's panning for gold in the upper right hand corner, that's not a real ID. So making sure that you have a real ID, that I would hope that will get voted in.
Interesting.
And yeah, making sure that we've got good legislators out there is very important. So
Vitally.
yeah, so we can't get these types of things passed if we the people don't get out there and vote. And that's very important for it to happen. And especially because, for example, we were able to stop California Forever here in Solano County. They stopped their uh, their campaign to build that smart city uh, out in the middle of farmland, and that was because the people got up and they rose up and they spoke out. And so a lot of people are opposing that out there. And then hopefully shipbuilding will be coming to Vallejo or in our area here in Solano County. I mean, we've got Mare Island, where they could build ships, and that'll bring thousands of jobs and improve the city of Vallejo much better. And hopefully people will vote the right people into the city council to make the proper decisions in order to make things work here in Vallejo. Uh, so voting is a very important thing, and we need to be able to look at those type of things and have good accountability in government. If we don't have good accountability in government and knowing where our monies are being spent, I mean, you see all those things that they're finding out. I mean, why are we trying to educate people in Zimbabwe about sex? I mean,
USAID.
yeah, why are we supporting plays in Ireland about sex, or trying to teach journalists in Bangladesh or wherever how to identify certain types of triggering words. Why are we spending money on those types of things? And that's federal tax dollars that are going towards those type of things, let alone your local city tax dollars. Take a look at your roads in your own city. Are those being cared for? Is your city packed full of homeless people living everywhere, throwing trash everywhere? I mean, the homeless need help, but there aren't enough workers to help them. So how do you attract, nonprofit organizations or NGOs or non-governmental organizations to be able to help those homeless people? There are so many different things that are going on that we need to get the right people and vote the right people into these offices in order to make it happen. So, I mean, you need to have three things. You need to have faith in a higher power, some sort of higher power, that you will be able to make the right choices and have the right morality. Because without faith in a higher power, where does your morality come from? What teaches you what is right and what is wrong? And that comes from a faith in a higher power. And if you don't have your family voting with you or your family around you that you can talk to and have a decent conversation, it doesn't make a difference if you're on the left or the right, but be able to have these conversations. How are you going to know which way to vote? And how much do you want your freedom? So faith, family, and freedom. Voting helps keep your freedom there. And we need to vote to protect those things like the Bill of Rights, our First Amendment, our ability to express ourselves, our ability to say what we want to say when we want to say it and not be chastised for it. We should be open to listening to somebody else. I went to a bar here in Vallejo and had a conversation. It was a bar owned by some gay people, and was in there with my friend Mike, and just had a beer and had a conversation with people about different things. And we did talk about the two things that you're not supposed to talk about: religion and politics.
Good.
But we had a conversation. We didn't yell or shout at each other, but being able to have that conversation is an important thing. And if we don't have those types of conversation, we'll lose our country. We'll lose our cities. We'll lose, the greatness that California is. And we've got here in California, we've got the seventh largest economy in the world. In the world, our GDP here in California is bigger than some countries. We produce over 400 different agricultural products here in the state of California. Why are we paying so much for it? We're right here at the source. And
why are we paying so much for fuel? Highest taxation on fuel in the nation. And a lot of that is two reasons. One, the state is teetering on financial collapse. And the other one is it makes Trump look bad. Oh, I thought he was going to bring down fuel prices. Oh, look how high they are. Well, we had a chance of stopping that in 2018 with Prop 6, and we blew it.
Right.
And now they just raise whenever they want, and registration fees on vehicles too. And they're doing it, and it makes Trump look bad, Orange Man bad. Look, fuel prices are still so high. Well, that's because of you. You're the one doing that, Governor Hairdo, and everyone else.
Well, it's not just Governor Hairdo, but it's the people. If you think about it, it's the people who voted Prop 6 in. It wasn't President Trump who voted Prop 6
Prop
in.
6 failed, but if we would have voted yes, they would have put limits on all that, and they wouldn't be able to do what they're doing now. But
and at the same time, the fees on fuel has gone up to. Gavin Newsom just signed another 56 cents to add on to the cost of fuel. So
that's not even the carb tax. Wait until the carb tax kicks in. That's going to be another 65 cents per gallon.
No.
We're already up to at least $2 per gallon in taxes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's that carb tax. I thought it was already passed.
Yeah, no, they postponed it.
Oh, they postponed it. Okay, well, I mean, if you think about it, if you look at the rest of the country, they're paying under $3 for gas outside the state of California. But here in the state of California, we're paying $4.50.
I saw $6 when I was over on the coast just this past weekend.
That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
How about that?
I was talking to a chemical engineer earlier this week, and he goes, we should not be paying so much for energy in the state of California. We're sitting on an ocean of natural gas.
No,
We're
we're
sitting
shipping it in from Arabian countries.
but to process it
We
here,
are.
and then it's ridiculous. They should
Yeah,
allow oil exploration,
of course.
fossil fuel exploration here in the state of California. But again, who did we vote into office? We, the people here in California. Who did we vote into office that is restricting these things? It is we, the people, who voted the legislators in. You
Your
know,
district has been far left for a few decades. Is this the
Actually, no,
time?
it wasn't. No, it
Can
was only
you?
since it was until the last redistricting. District 3, which it used to
Oh,
be, was a D+3.
oh,
Very, very winnable. Very, very winnable. And a candidate named Tamika Hamilton, she ran and she got 48% of the vote when she ran in District 3. She almost toppled, the person that she was running against. Uh, but once they redistricted and they split Solano County into two parts, went from a D+3 to D+26. And
I think that's called gerrymandering.
just a little bit. And
So
District
the point
4
is, though,
was
the
D plus
question
17.
is this time? Can you win in District 8?
It's possible for me to win in District 8, but without the help of the people going to rudy4foruscongress.com and donating a cup of coffee a month. That's all I'm asking. Actually, I'm asking just $5. $5. That's less than a cup of coffee going to Pete's Coffee. Less than $5 or
Yeah.
less than a cup of coffee, you know, just once a month. Uh, with that help, I can win. It's getting the word out there, spreading the word about the election. I mean, the election's coming up in June of next year, so we do have some time. But
That's the primary.
yeah, getting
Yeah.
getting in touch with me at rudy4uscongress.com and bring me out. Bring me out to your church. Bring me out to a small coffee clutch.
There
Bring
you
me out
go.
to your weekly breakfast club
Yeah.
to talk. It's really important to do these things and to support. I mean, for everybody else, support your local candidates. Support your local candidates. Support somebody that you like. How many of our dollars have we given from California out to people in other states? How many people donated to Ted Cruz? Josh Hawley. Uh, um, what's his name from Florida? Brandon. I forgot his name. Anyway, my point being is that we've given our money around the country and not given locally. So stay local. Donate to your local candidates. That's an important thing. And again, $5 a month.
You
That's
say
it.
that people haven't felt enough pain to actually change their vote and to stop voting automatically for anything with a D after their name. I've heard you say many times they're just not feeling enough pain. Are they
Yeah.
finally feeling enough pain now?
Well, the question is it bad enough? Is it bad
Is
enough
it
that
bad enough?
if you are you willing to pay attention and make a choice? Pay attention and make a choice. I'm not telling you to, I want you to vote for me, but get off your butt. And when election time comes around, just take a look around. People are talking about President Trump and his tariffs, for example, right? Oh, the tariffs are going to raise the cost of goods. Tariffs are going to raise the cost of goods. Okay. How much are you paying for fuel? How much has that gone up? How much are you paying for a combo meal? Combo meal 5 years ago, 6 years ago was $5 to $6. What are you paying for it today? $15. Is it bad enough yet? And that's without tariffs. That's without tariffs here in our own state.
Yeah.
Here in our own state, combo meal is $15. That's absolutely ridiculous. I used to be able to go to Subway and get a 6-inch sandwich, chips, and a Coke for $6. That was it. $6. We can't do that anymore.
I miss the days of the $5, $5,
Yeah,
$5 foot long.
exactly.
I
And
miss
now
those
it's
days.
$15, $20 for a foot long.
And it seems to be
Uh,
a little shorter.
exactly. A gallon of orange
$15
juice.
for a not quite a foot long.
Exactly. Well, or a man-sized foot long. But
Uh,
I mean, just
I
think about a gallon of orange juice. A gallon of orange juice right now is $8.
yeah,
So do you think
crazy.
it's really Trump's
And we've
tariffs?
raised the oranges here.
Exactly. We live in the land of fruit and nuts. We shouldn't be paying that much. We
Right.
shouldn't be paying that much. But the question is it bad enough yet that you're going to choose to vote for someone who's not going to keep these things going? And in some ways, I feel that people don't think it's bad enough. You know why? There's still lines at In-N-Out Burger.
Yeah,
There's still lines at Raising Cane to go buy these $15 meals.
I know.
I mean,
I
for a
know.
family of four, that's $60 to go to a fast food restaurant.
Yeah. And they're going off of their savings, they're utilizing their savings, they're cutting into their investments. What
Mhm.
and you're right, they haven't hit rock bottom yet.
Yeah,
But
and
once
these are
this,
average people that are showing up there. Because I'm telling you, when you look at the line of cars going into In-N-Out Burger, they're not all expensive cars. They're all average cars that are going in there. So the average person is buying these different things. I mean, one time I saw a homeless person sitting there begging, and he had a Starbucks in his hand. How does a homeless person have a Starbucks cup and drinking coffee, and then butt is panhandling in the middle of the road?
right,
You know, uh,
only in
and
California.
yeah, and a cup of coffee is what, $8?
Yeah.
It's $8.
Ay,
So
ay, ay.
that's completely crazy. I mean, the question is it bad enough yet? Are you going to make a choice? You, the average voter, are you going to go out there and make a choice to make a difference in your city council, in your school boards, on the water board? Are you going to choose to run for water board?
I never knew that if they run unopposed, that they don't even show up on the ballot. I don't know
Correct?
how many people know that. I never knew that.
Yeah, yeah. Then that's absolutely true. That's how come you don't see people running
How do
against
we
them. I
find
mean,
out? How do we find out about these different races and if we could actually run for something like that? Shoot,
all
I'll
you
run
have
for
to
water board.
you can go to your local elections office and look it up. A lot of the city websites have got a list of their city council members and when they're running, when their last election was, who's on the water board, who's on the board for their local recreational district. You know, the recreational district, there's like 5 people on it, and a lot of times they run unopposed. So all they do is file their paperwork and they stay on board. And their salaries in some of these cases are absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So, you know, why not run? Why not take that time? And some of these boards only meet twice a month. Twice a month. That's all that they meet.
Wow.
They do work in the in between times, and they do have a general manager that is on, you know, all the time, 40 hours a week, and their job is to carry out the board's wishes. But getting out there and becoming part of the solution rather than being part of the problem, or even worse, doing nothing, that's what makes a difference, you know?
Man.
I mean, how else are we going to combat crime? How are we going to combat high taxes? How are we going to prevent our children being taught the wrong things? And parents need to get involved. Parents need to get involved. And I believe that children should be allowed just to be children. They've got a hard enough time trying to
How about
figure out
that?
what they're going to do in life, let alone what sexuality, that they have. I think that
Right.
when they go to the bathroom, they can figure that part out.
One last question,
Okay.
which somebody might be interested in, because basically anybody can run for office. Um, but that doesn't mean you know a lot about them, and the media just ignores them for the most part, if you're on the right, especially. Um, what do you bring to the table? I mean, you're talking about a very influential and powerful office,
Yeah.
U.S.
Yeah.
Congress for the state of California that
hmm
you are running for.
Well,
Why Rudy Rosselli? What have you done that would give you the capability of doing that.
Yeah, well, obviously, I'm not in office right now, and that's why I'm running. But I did spend 26 years in the military. I started out as a combat arms officer, and I was also a company commander, which I led a company of 150 people. Uh, Leadership like that doesn't, the experience of leadership like that doesn't come to everybody. It's not something that everybody experiences. And it's tough when you're making life and death decisions for people. Uh, as a commander, I had to make those type of decisions. Who went on what missions and where did they go? And even more so as a logistician, when I became a logistician in the military, uh, if we didn't send the bullets, if we didn't send the fuel, if we did not send the water on time, people died. People's lives were in the balance. So making sure that we got it right was a very important thing. And not only did it on the small scale, but I did it on the Korean Peninsula for the entire peninsula of Korea for the 8th Army when I was stationed there. And then eventually I made it my way up to the National Guard Bureau in Washington, in Alexandria, Virginia, where I managed the logistics, helped to manage the logistics for Hurricane Katrina and making sure that we had not only troops on the ground. Did you know that in Hurricane Katrina, the National Guard was on the ground in the first 24 hours after the hurricane hit? And where was the active duty? They weren't even there. It was the National Guard and the Coast Guard that was on the ground plucking people off of buildings and making sure that we had 5,000 troops on the ground within 24 hours. I helped to coordinate the supplies that were sent to Louisiana for that, to New Orleans. We were bringing in generators as far as Oregon to New Orleans in order to make sure that we provided power. Within 72 hours, we had over 10,000 troops on the ground. And these are stories that people don't know about. They didn't even talk about it. And then I was fortunate enough to go work at the Pentagon uh, in Washington, D.C., where I worked for the logistics office there for the G4, the main logistics office for the Army, to make sure that all of our equipment was being processed through properly, that we were life cycling out the right equipment when it needed to be life cycled out. That means replacing old equipment for new equipment. And at the time, the National Guard was short over 14,000 Humvees. So trying to get the transition out from the active duty to the National Guard and the reserves, getting those equipments there, finding the appropriations for the appropriate amount of money in order to buy these vehicles or get them transitioned from the active component to the reserves. These are all things that I was part of. And I also worked with the CIO, the Chief Information Officer, for managing programs that managed all of the movement of all of this equipment. And then I was brought up to work for the Deputy Undersecretary of the Army for Business Transformation. And we started working on manpower studies to make sure that the Army was spending its money in the appropriate places. I worked on projects working with Congress in order to appropriate the proper amount of money, talking with the representatives up there, making sure that they were making the right informed decisions. So I've already walked the halls. I've seen the swamp. I know where the swamp creatures are at, and I'm not scared of any of those things. When the people hire me to do the job of going to Congress, I will be the person I won't be like, oh, wow, look at all this wonderful things. No, I'm going to hit the ground and I'm going to make sure that I'm connecting with the right people to get the right jobs done, to protect our country, to look out for our veterans, make sure that our monies are going in the right place. If we still have a Department of Education, out there, making sure that opportunities like having shipping companies come to Vallejo to be able to build up an area like Solano County, to
Making
build up
it conducive for them to be able to actually build there, helping smooth the way for them to be able to jump over all the hurdles that the state of
Exactly.
California keeps throwing in front of any new business trying to start up here, which is insane. We
Yeah.
desperately need stuff like that.
Yeah. And looking out for our veterans. I mean, our veterans are oftentimes overlooked and not cared for in many places. And I'm not talking about just in District 8, but across the country. You take a look at Wyoming, there's one VA, one Veterans Administration hospital in the entire state. We need to get things like that fixed. We need to be able to make it possible to inform veterans that they do have benefits, that those benefits are available, and there are ways for them to obtain those benefits. Because they make up for all the veterans that ever served since World War II. That's only 7% of the entirety of the population, and on active duty right now, it's less than 1% that's protecting our nation. 1%, less than 1% that's protecting our nation. So we need to look out for our veterans because they are doing God's work out there to protect our freedoms, the Bill of Rights. They are out there to serve to protect our Constitution and the way we do things.
Amen.
And to make sure that people have the right to vote. So they need to get out there and vote. If our soldiers our servicemen are doing it 24/7, 365, the least that you can do is do the two things that our citizenship requires. One is to vote. Two is to do jury duty. Those are only two responsibilities.
Right.
And people fail to do that, or they try to get out of it.
I know. It's odd to me too, but Rudy for uscongress.com. That's the word FOR, Rudy, RUDY, Rudy for uscongress.com. Go there, get to know him, read what he says, what he's written about these different things that mean so much to us and are so vital to the return of the golden state of California. Thank you, buddy.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for being on. Thanks for inviting me to be on here. And God bless everybody. Just make a difference in your own community, and be sure not to vote down ballot, not just at the bottom of the ballot, but make sure you vote at the top of the ballot too. Vote the whole thing.
Great point. A lot of times we don't do that. We'll just vote for the few things and then we leave everything else blank, and those people just walk right into positions of power. Great point. Do a little research is all we're asking. And that's easy to do with just do a little search engine thing, preferably not Google or Bing, because if you want to get some actual factual things, use a different search engine. But thank you, my friend.
One of the things you can do is you can go on X and go on Grok. Grok is the AI that's on there, and you can ask it questions, and then make sure that you ask it to provide the source of its information, and then you can go right to the source for whatever.
That is interesting. Grok, as in GROC or GROC?
No, GROK.
GROK.
Right.
That's on X. We find that on Twitter.
Yep, you go. It's one of the little icons that are on the side or at the bottom. You can just tap on it and type in there,
That's good to know. And with Elon Musk running the show there, I trust that more than I trust Google.
But make sure that you ask for the source of the information. Make sure that you ask for the source, and it will tell you, I got it from this, I got it from that, according to the Constitution, according to local law, whatever it may be, your state law, your state constitution. It will tell you that. So if you're confused about something, and you can even ask it, who is Rudy Rosselli? Try that, and that's spelled Recile, Rudy, Rudy. Everybody knows Rudy, but Rosselli, Recile. You can look me up. Go for it, and you'll find out everything you want to know about me.
Right on, buddy. I'll talk to you soon. And like this show while you're there, if you're on Facebook or YouTube right now, or at rumble.com/DoNotTalk, like this show right now, would you please take the time, just click like. That'll help. That'll help break down the algorithms. That'll help get this show out there. And then you share it. Share it. Just copy that URL. There's always a share button. Share, and then it'll give you several options. Where do you want to share this? Or just copy the little URL there that it gives you to share, and share it on your own social media. That way, we get more people knowing about Rudy Rosselli and people like him. running for office. May God bless you and keep you. May God bless America. But most importantly, America, bless God